Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. Rich Kincaid always feel inadequate when they announce the Michigan Broadcaster of the Year, and then I come out and I'm not the Michigan Broadcaster of the Year. I could be the Michigan Broadcaster of the Weekend, perhaps, something like that. But anyways, Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick. Glad to be here with you on this Friday. Well, Paul Carey, just a moment ago, you heard his voice introducing Michael Patrick. He had a heart attack the day before yesterday and is resting comfortably today at Beaumont Hospital in Troy. There's two Beaumonts down there. One's in Royal Oak. Paul's at the one in Troy. They put a stent in his heart, and he's doing well. So good news with respect to Paul Carey. All right? So let's get that out of the way. Gary Austin in the newsroom, joining us as always. A bit of history yesterday, Gary, down in Florida. It was the final launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery. It turned out to be a more interesting than usual launch because they came within, as it turns out, 3 seconds of not getting the bird in the air. Why? Well, let's find out from Rory O'Neill.
About 15 minutes before liftoff, a computer glitch at the Air Force office, which monitors the airspace surrounding the launch pad, threatened the liftoff. Launch Director Mike Leinbach took it in stride.
Okay, guys, let's calm down. They're working a little issue over there. We'll give them a few minutes to work it. If they get green, we'll be in good shape.
The repairs were made with just seconds to spare, and that green light given. Discovery's climb into space looked picture perfect, but there were problems. Large chunks of foam insulation fell from the fuel tank, hitting Discovery. They don't think there was damage, and inspection is on tap today. Rory O'Neill at the Kennedy Space Center.
All right, thank you for that, Rory, and the crew doing well today. I had thought yesterday for a while it was the final Space Shuttle launch period, but it turns out it's the final launch of Space Shuttle Discovery, which is making its 39th and final flight in this mission. After this current mission, there are still 2 shuttle launches to go, and by which time, when they complete those next 2 launches, all 3 of the remaining shuttles in the fleet will be retired. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure what they're doing after the space shuttle. Will America continue to have a presence in space? We have to. We've got the International Space Center up there, and we have to get supplies to it, and we have to get the astronauts back and forth. So I'm sure they have something in mind. I'm just not sure myself exactly what that might be. So I'm sure they'll let us know. You just can't have guys floating around up in space with no way to get them food and whatnot. So at any rate, that's the one of the stories going on today. Closer to home, General Motors yesterday announced a profit of $4.7 billion, not too shabby for a company 2 years ago, which was on the verge of bankruptcy. What struck me as odd, and Gary Austin is joining us now from the newsroom, is the fact that after announcing that they made $4.7 billion and were giving profit-sharing checks, bonus checks to all 45,000 of their workers, which, by the way, 45,000 used to be the afternoon shift at Buick City over in Flint, and that's now GM's total workforce. Yeah. GM stock tumbled on Wall Street and closed just above its initial offering price of around $33. I couldn't reconcile those two things.
Well, it's hard to say, too, Rich, when situations like this occur. GM, there's still a big gray area for this company. No one knows where we're going to head. I mean, as we know for auto companies, one good quarter doesn't a good profit make in the big picture. I mean, things may be good now.
I don't know. 4.7 is that's serious change.
Well, it's true. It is, and GM is certainly poised for a turnaround, and we're seeing some good things here. But when it comes to Wall Street analysts and those who look at the big picture, and we're talking the long term, they're looking beyond just a few months. And I think a lot's going to happen as far as overall GM's outlook as how things shake out with a Chevy Volt. We know GM has staked a lot on that, and I think how sales go will be a good gauge, and from there, watch Wall Street really take off with additional optimism if GM really makes this Volt stick.
Boy, I'll tell you what, they better get that puppy out there as soon as they can. As you driving in this morning, I'm looking at gas at $3.35, $3.39, what have you.
Yeah, it just keeps going up. And the situation in the Mideast, it sure is tenuous, Rich, and all these projections about having to shell out some $4 plus, maybe even $5 a gallon by this summer. I mean, all these different factors. Talk about a perfect storm coming together. And here the economy is just starting to pick up. I mean, we're seeing those signs. And now this could really, I mean, talk about raining on a parade.
Well-
I mean, higher gasoline prices, talk about really, I mean, to take any economy, I don't care where you are, is going to take a significant hit when energy prices go up like this. The combination of high gasoline prices, we're in the midst of the winter heating season too, that combination, it's going to be tough.
Very difficult to get any sort of an accurate handle on what is happening at Libya. I've been reading some live blogs this morning, and it's just people who are even in Libya can't say with any certainty what's going on. All we can say with certainty is that it's not good. People are dying over there. We don't know how many are dying. But when you've got your own army firing on your own civilians, that's an ugly situation. And yesterday, Muammar Gaddafi goes on state-run television and blames Al-Qaeda. Let me see if I get this straight. He blamed Al-Qaeda for providing drugs to the people he called insurgents, the people who were trying to overthrow him. Well, this is not the first time this has come up exactly, but he sounds like he's off his nut.
Yeah, well, Muammar Gaddafi, he's been in power for a long time.
Sure.
And in dictatorships, I mean, you get comfortable. And all of a sudden, people are starting to say, you know what, we don't like this, and we're going to retaliate. And it started with people first taking to the streets, as is often the case in situations like this. And now, I mean, things are so tenuous for Gaddafi's regime. You have some in his Air Force now refusing to attack civilians on orders from the uppity-ups. They're saying, hey, we're not going to bomb our own people.
Right.
When you see military defections like that, things are getting serious. And it seems like the more the military talks about defecting, the more deeper entrenched Gaddafi gets by saying, you know, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sticking this out. I'm in it for the long haul. He's convinced a power vacuum will be created if he loses power for whatever reason. And then civil war is going to break out. Rich, I'm not so sure civil war is not going to break out anyway.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. That's it was, the last time I was in here, it was about 3 weeks or a month ago. We were talking about the situation in Egypt. That has resolved itself, and I think better than people maybe had a right to expect that it would. But they're going to have elections come the fall, and Hosni Mubarak is out of there. I don't see it ending as cleanly in Libya as it did in Egypt.
Well, we don't have the violence to this extent. We didn't see that in Egypt like we're seeing in Libya today. But you're right. I mean, a few days after, I mean, everybody was waiting to see what's going to happen. No one knew. I mean, this sort of thing doesn't happen every day. And we have a major political leader suddenly stepping aside in the situation with Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. And yeah, there was some big concern. What's going to happen there? We have vital interests in Egypt. Not to mention the oil supply, but we have political interests there. Obviously, you know, it's a part of the Mideast that has been getting a lot of attention for a long time and will for years to come.
Just
so,
goes
yeah.
to show you we cannot afford to be dependent on foreign sources for oil.
Yeah. So what do we do? Start drilling in Anwar?
No, well, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you what, I just keep going back to thinking if we'd have just followed Jimmy Carter's advice back in the late 1970s, you know, when he set a limit of, I think it was 100,000 barrels a day. That was all the foreign oil we were going to take into this country, and if we'd have stuck on that track, we wouldn't be in this fix that we're in today.
Well, you know, it's a realistic objective, I think, Rich. But at the same time, if we don't get the oil from foreign sources, where do we get it? And there are going to be many in this country say we should drill. We have ample reserves in this country ready to be tapped. And for environmental reasons, we're not. You have one side saying we can go in and drill effectively. We have reclamation ability today when it comes to repairing any type of drilling activity to the landscape.
Really,
well,
Gary,
saying,
you're going to say that after what happened in the Gulf?
No, Rich, no. I'm saying some say that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have those who argue it's too risky to drill because if we do have a situation, like you just said, in the Gulf, the risk isn't worth taking the chance.
Yeah,
so you have both sides.
Yeah.
It's been an ongoing argument for 50 years in this country,
Oh,
and
I
I
know.
don't see it ending anytime soon.
Well, it has to end. Oil's a finite resource. We have got to move beyond it. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the end of the
Rich,
argument.
no, oil is not a finite
Well, of course
resource.
it is.
Well, eventually, but right now, if again, I'm taking the side of those who say we should drill, we should open up more drilling in this country. There's plenty of oil to fuel this country for hundreds of years. There's a lot of oil there, but like you say, the risk and the potential damage to the environment of going after that oil, that's the long-standing argument that lawmakers are at loggerheads over. And again, I don't see them sorting that out anytime soon. But short of that, if we're not going to drill for oil, well, we talked about with this newscast open, talking about the Chevy Volt. I mean, if we become less reliant on foreign oil and more reliant on other energy sources. Many say then we have a chance to break this chain, this. We're so bound to this foreign oil. The only way to break the dependency is to find other sources. If we're not going to drill for it here, we better hope other sources like other clean energy sources. We heard a lot about clean coal is another technology that many say is the way to go today. So I don't know the answer. It's a tough decision, but you're right. Bottom line is the more dependent we are on foreign oil sources, we find ourselves in just.
Well, I'll tell you what,
the
Gary,
more dependent we are, the more the situation is such where we have to, the tenuous situation we put ourselves in by becoming dependent on foreign oil, it is a situation where there's no getting out of anytime soon unless we can find some sort of an alternative.
No, I think we can get out of it soon. I think we can get out of it soon in 10 years. If we can go from not having a space program to putting a man on the moon in 10 years, we can fix this in 10 years myself.
Boy, Rick,
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
I hope you're right.
You betcha. Gary Austin in the newsroom. Entertaining as always. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk Tiger baseball while the snow flies across our great state of Michigan. Tigers open their spring training schedule later today. We'll talk to Larry Sorensen next. Well, we've been talking this morning about the launch yesterday of Space Shuttle Discovery, the final launch for Discovery, and we're down to 2 shuttle launches remaining in the program. And there's a neat little feature on CNN.com that I'm watching it now as I do radio. 133 shuttle launches in 133 seconds. It's a nice little feature if you want to check that out at CNN.com. A little space video for you. Time right now to talk finances with Jamie Westenbarger of Forest Hills Financial, Inc. Jamie is a registered principal of Invest Financial and president of Forest Hills Financial, Inc. Invest is not affiliated with Forest Hills Financial. Opinions expressed are those of Jamie Westenbarger and not necessarily those of Invest. Jamie, good morning. How are you?
Morning. How's it going?
Going all right. Hey, how come GM's stock went down yesterday when they made $4.7 billion?
Isn't it amazing how sometimes things just make absolutely no sense? Ford had done that here about a month ago or so, reported the largest profit ever in their history of their company, and Wall Street responded with a strong, not quite good enough. The market moves, especially individual stocks move on so many things, and a lot of times it can be confusing to the average investor who says, well, geez, they made their first profit in a long time, and they made all these billions of dollars. But when you're looking at just the overall math that's involved in the trading by a lot of these large firms, they're looking at future earnings. They're looking at what they thought they were going to earn versus what they did earn, and sometimes a few pennies here or a few pennies there seem to really make all the difference in what the stock's going to do that day or the next few weeks, and is one of the reasons why we stress so much that the average person really shouldn't fall in love with an individual stock. They really should be designing a portfolio that reflects them in a lot of different ways. And why own one stock when you can own thousands of them to balance yourself out?
Sure, but to the average person, is there anything that you can see in the instant case, in GM's case, that would account for a stock dip in a situation like this?
The largest thing that I'll say is
maybe just gas prices.
What it looks like with GM is it was bad timing. They were in the middle of a normal pullback. We've seen a pullback all week this week. The S&P 500 last week doubled their bear low. Back in 2009, 666, which is a great number, of course, was where the S&P kind of bottomed out. So we saw them effectively up 100%. Here last week. So the market was ready for kind of a correction to happen, and GM just happened to report earnings in the middle of that, honestly.
Jamie Westenbarger from Forest Hills Financial, Inc. is our guest, our regular guest at this time on Fridays. Jamie, gasoline prices, everybody knows. They're up to $3.30, almost $3.40 a gallon. Looks like they're going to go higher than that. What impact is that going to have on the markets?
Well, the underlying issues with what's happening with oil is probably the largest concern. If we see more unease kind of spreading through the Mideast and Northern Africa area, And we see more producers of oil fall into similar situations to what's happening in Libya and what happened in Egypt, and kind of that unrest, and that makes everyone nervous. And if we see $200 oil, then clearly that's going to affect the overall economy. And our economy is fragile right now. We're just in the middle of, the very beginning part of kind of recovering and turning the corner. So obviously if oil continues to go up, it's going to put some pressure on things. But we see this, whether it's because of unrest in a country, or because of summer driving, or because of a refinery shuts down at the wrong time. This tends to be the time of year where we start to see oil creeping back up, and everybody comes on TV and says, "Oh my gosh, it's all over. We're going to pay $5 a gallon for gas." And a lot of times it just seems to be a lot more hype than anything.
The thing that
Saudi Arabia is already announcing that they're going to start pushing more supply onto the market. And one thing that I think is misunderstood a lot of times, Rich, is so many times people say, "Oh, the oil companies, they really are happy that this oil is going way up." But when you look at the main suppliers of oil, whether it's the companies or the countries, like the Middle Eastern countries and whatnot, they know that there's a breaking point in this country. They know that there's a price that we just are not comfortable with. And the last thing they want is that price to happen for a long period of time, because then all of a sudden, wind turbines and electric cars and things like that start looking a lot better to people, and they don't want us to turn off that tap that we've got to their source.
All right, Jamie, thanks very much. Appreciate talking with you as we do every Friday.
All right, Rich, take care.
Jamie Westenbarger from Forest Hills Financial joining us this morning with trying to explain what is to me the relatively unexplainable, how General Motors could make almost $5 billion, billion with a B, 4.7 is the actual number, and still see their stocks decline. Good news for those GM workers, though. All 45,000 hourly employees get a bonus check, and I believe it was averaging about $4,300 per worker. The thing that surprises you with that number is the fact that, there's only 45,000 hourly workers to give a bonus check to. Boy, that's just a fraction of the number of workers that used to find themselves employed by General Motors. All right, we will take a break, come back with more. Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick Shields in the morning. That's a lot of Jersey going on right there. You got Bruce Springsteen. You got the Jersey Boys coming to the Wharton Center. We're joined right now by the Public Relations Director of the Wharton Center, Bob Hoffman. Bob, I got to tell you something. Clifton Wharton was the president of Michigan State University when I went to Michigan State. And I think being the president of a university is the same as being a manager of a baseball team. You're only as good as your students. So I'm thinking I'm part of the reason that the Wharton Center is named the Wharton Center.
Well, there you go.
Great show coming up there.
Hey, yeah, actually, tickets go on sale today, this morning at 9 o'clock for Jersey Boys, the international award-winning Broadway musical about the Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, the Four Seasons. And, for Jersey Boys, pretty special, won 42 major awards worldwide, including the 2006 Tony Award for Best Musical, the 2006 Grammy Award for Best Musical Show Album, and, of course, the 2009 Olivier Award for Best New Musical. So, amazing show that's coming up to Wharton Center. It's not coming until September 28th or October 16th, but tickets go on sale today to the general public.
So we want to make sure that we get the word out about that. If you want the good seats, obviously, you got to get there early. But boy, I didn't realize the lead time was such. We're going to be into the football season by then.
Yeah, the lead time is so much because it's such a popular musical, and what's probably going to happen, we're going to sell out. This show has made a name for itself and is one of those big Broadway blockbusters that sells quickly. So you'll want to get your tickets early and see it a couple of times because it really is cool. In fact, I'm going to go see it again in April because this will be the third time I've seen it. It is awesome. I can't tell you. It's not about it's not necessarily a tribute band or anything like that. What it is, it's a play with music, and it's telling the story of the Four Seasons and how they came about. There's 5 productions worldwide, one on Broadway, one in Las Vegas, Sydney, Australia, and one in London, and then, of course, the touring production, which is coming to Wharton Center.
How do you go about getting productions like this to come to the Wharton Center?
Mike Brand, our executive director, works with a lot of the agents in New York, and they take a look and say, okay, we're going to be on tour. We're going to be on putting our schedule together, and typically a show of this caliber will go to, the bigger markets first. Well, Wharton Center has a reputation of selling out and selling strong with shows. So they want to come to Wharton Center. Polestar Magazine, which is a leading industry source magazine, ranked us, in the top 10 of performing arts centers in the world. So when you have those kind of rankings, Jersey Boys, big shows like that definitely want to come. And you can see it at, Wharton Center for a lot lower price than you would see it on Broadway or, probably the bigger cities like London.
It's such an intimate experience when you go and you get to see. We just recently saw Shrek at the Wharton Center. And I have to tell you,
fun.
It's so different to see a musical and be there and feel like you're part of the show versus watching a movie on TV. It's a totally different kind of entertainment. So I'm looking forward to the Jersey Boys coming. How many shows are you having at the Wharton Center?
Well, it's here from September 28th through October 16th. So it's here for a while. There'll be definitely, lots of opportunities to see it. The best thing to do is go online at whartoncenter.com. You can pick out your tickets of the date that you want to see it. Or if you want to talk to somebody, give us a call at 800-WHARTON. Or, of course, just stop in at the Wharton Center ticket office and get your tickets.
And tickets are as low as $35?
I'm sorry?
Tickets as low as $35, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's a good buy.
And, it definitely is. I think that's the great thing about Wharton Center is that, we're able to have ticket prices that are very competitive with other markets.
Sure.
So, 7.4 million people across the world have seen this show.
Wow.
So,
Hey, is there a student discount for this?
for most of the Broadway shows, there are student discounts, but for this one, I think it starts at $35.
Okay. So, yeah, because I'm thinking back to when I was a Michigan State student, and Amanda, I'm sure you feel the same way. All the great prices we got for things. I mean, like football tickets
for most of our Broadway shows, it's $25, and for most of the
advantage of it.
Really,
I didn't realize until after. I'm still technically a student, I guess,
I
but I
guess,
didn't really realize till afterwards that you kind of got the discount.
Yeah. Well, that's you do.
It's one of our challenges. We're really trying to reach out to the students to tell them about Wharton Center and the fact that, for $25, you can see most Broadway shows, or for $15, you can see most non-performing arts shows.
Well, all you have to do is make it a non-elective.
There you go.
Bob, thanks a lot. Good luck with Jersey Boys.
Thank you.
Bob Hoffman, the Public Relations Director at the Wharton Center, which, again, I helped name. It was actually more Dr. Clifton Wharton's work than mine, but my guy, he was a good president. I felt good about going to Michigan State when he was president of the school. All right, we're going to take a break as we approach the top of the hour. We're going to come back next hour and talk about Pure Michigan. Is it going to be Pure Michigan for much longer? Well, we'll find out maybe as we continue on MPS in the Morning. Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick on this Friday. I'm all bummed out right now. Nikki Hale, our world correspondent, is normally with us in studios, the highlight of any Friday broadcast. But due to the snow, due to the inclement weather out there, Nikki is joining us on the phone this morning, so I do not get to gaze upon her lovely visage. And also, I always look forward to seeing what kind of shoes you're wearing.
Oh, really? You do pay attention to my shoes? Well, that's very cute. Thanks for that, Rich.
Good to hear from you. At any rate, Nikki, how are you today?
Doing well. Besides the weather, yes.
Yeah, there we go. Nikki, we'll delve into some of the fun stuff in a moment, but the situation in New Zealand, the earthquake there, which struck Monday night our time and Tuesday midday in Christchurch. I believe that's the second largest city in New Zealand. We're hearing reports as of this morning that over 100 people, maybe 115 or so, are confirmed dead in that earthquake, and another 250 are still listed as missing, and they're starting to run out of time down there.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good, and I know they sent a huge crew from Los Angeles over there, the same crew that helped in Haiti, and they are pretty optimistic at this point because the weather is actually in their favor. It's not too hot. So they said that actually enhances the chance of survival for those that are still in buildings.
There you
They're
go.
using a lot of advanced technology, cameras, to get inside these buildings and trying to see if they can find any other survivors.
And part of the problem is just the distances involved. It takes a long time to get from the United States to New Zealand. I was surprised to learn that their time zone-wise, they're 18 hours in front of us.
Yep, exactly. And I think as soon as they heard there was an earthquake and it was not a good one, they shipped people out just in case, and happily so, because they need all the help they can get at this point.
Yeah, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and keep those people in our prayers as the rescue efforts continue this morning in Christchurch. On to the fun stuff now. Prince Charles, a busy boy, giving Catherine Zeta-Jones a CBE. What's a CBE?
The CBE is the Commander of the Order of the British Empire. So it's like when you hear somebody was knighted by the Queen, or you hear like it's Dame Helen Mirren, that kind of thing.
Sure.
It's basically an honor that the royal family bestows upon people who have done above and beyond. So if they've done a very, good job in their acting career, but usually it has to do with also being very present in charitable contributions and different things like that. So, Catherine Zeta-Jones received her CBE from Prince Charles yesterday. She actually was aware of it since last year, but the ceremony was yesterday, and it took about 55 seconds. They whipped them through. It wasn't just Catherine Zeta-Jones. I think there was upwards of 55 people receiving their different awards yesterday. She happened to be the one star from Hollywood that we all recognize the name. So, an interesting fact for her there.
Is this the same honor designation that Paul McCarthy enjoys? Or I should say Paul McCartney enjoys?
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that he gets, exactly, except for I think he was actually knighted, wasn't he, I believe?
Okay, so there is a difference.
There is, yeah. There are
Okay.
actually 5 different levels. The one that Catherine Zeta received yesterday is actually the middle of the pack there. So
Okay.
she's a Commander of the Order of British Empire. Above that, there's a Knight Commander, and then above that is a Knight Grand Cross of the Order.
And I
of the British
presume-
Empire. So it's different levels.
I presume she was honored for her work in the Verizon telephone campaign.
Oh, yeah, that was phenomenal, wasn't it? I bet you loved that.
Absolutely. Speaking of Paul McCartney, and that's the reason I brought his name up, he's writing a ballet score?
Yes, he is. Interestingly, and I didn't know this until I saw this story, he actually has a love of composing classical music. And so this great opportunity came up with the New York City Ballet Company, and he said, you know what? Great, I'd love to. So he's actually writing a 55-minute score for them, and the world premiere of this will take place on September 22nd of this year.
That's got to be a success just to have just having his name associated with it. You have to figure it's is going to have a long and successful run. I mean, you could actually have crummy
exactly.
dancers.
Even if you're not a big ballet fan, you might even find yourself going to see this just because it's Paul McCartney on the music, right?
Exactly. I mean, you could have crummy dancers, frankly, and still have this be a success.
Exactly. I mean, he's well known for different compositions. I mean, since he's left the Beatles, he's had a very successful career still, and he didn't necessarily stay in the same genre as he did with the Beatles. He's gone quite far out there and done some different things. So this is great for him, I think.
Absolutely. Nikki Hale, our world correspondent on the other end of our line this morning. How many Facebook friends do you have, Nikki?
Oh, me? Oh, not many. I'm not really a Facebook person. I probably have about 150. I don't know.
Oh, that's a pretty good number. I mean, I've got like 12, but I usually, I'm down from about 50. I find 1 or 2 people dropping me on a daily basis. I just can't.
Yeah, no, I don't think, compared to my friends, I don't have that many.
There we go. Well, Eminem, according to the story I'm holding in my hand right now, has overtaken Lady Gaga as the most liked person on Facebook.
Right, which is different from actually having fans. So this
Oh,
is
it
when
is.
people clicked the little thumbs up or thumbs down and they liked him.
Okay.
So he surpassed Lady Gaga on the likes. And I think a lot of this is coming from the recent commercials he's done, his new album that's come out. And if you read into this, obviously they're saying this is a great thing for Eminem, a great thing for Detroit, obviously in Michigan. But he goes through dark periods, so this is not something they suspect is going to sustain. However, if you look deep into the numbers, Michael Jackson is still the most liked person on Facebook. So it's an achievement that he's taken over Lady Gaga. He's not the most liked person. And however, Lady Gaga far outscores him as far as actually having fans and followers on Twitter and things like that. And then you've got, of course, Justin Bieber there in the running with the most listened to artist on YouTube. So.
Well, I tried to become friends with somebody on Facebook yesterday, and I was told that that person had hit their friend limit.
Interesting. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was such a thing. You know, you go to that. I was killing time yesterday, something which I spent too much time doing. And, you know, they have that feature where you find your friends on Facebook. And I won't divulge the person that it was, because they'd probably be embarrassed to learn that I was trying to become their friend. But, yeah, I clicked on, you know, add this person as a friend, and they were nice enough to send me an email saying that my friend limit has been reached, but you can become a fan. So there's two, as you had mentioned, there's two different classes of Facebook association.
Right, exactly. And I think I talked to Michael about this about a year ago, and they did a study, and it says that, you know what, you can have hundreds and hundreds of Facebook friends, but realistically the brain is only able to accommodate a certain number of actual friends. So it's acquaintances more than friends is what we are on Facebook, and we can only actually solely be friends with a certain number, and I think it's just below 100. So,
well, see, I think Michael Patrick
is really right.
I think Michael Patrick was just being polite. He's probably got like 1.3 million friends on Facebook.
Oh, more than likely,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, he accepts everybody who tries to be his friend. He's just a nice man, you see.
Well, there you have it. And that's the biggest laugh we've gotten out of Amanda K. Wall all morning long.
Nikki always makes me chuckle a little bit.
Well, there we go. Sure.
Aww.
Now, if you want to go work at the Olympics in London, the time to apply for a job is now.
Yes, apparently they are getting things set up for ahead of the 2012 Olympic Games, and lots and lots and lots of jobs coming up, obviously, from anything from food preparation to cleaning to maintenance, and obviously anything to do with security and things like that. And all of those jobs, they're looking to, I guess, get people in place and get them trained so that everything is very well organized ahead of the Olympics starting next year, which is going to be a great boost for the economy over in the UK.
How are the preparations coming along for that? Boy, it just is. I mean, 2012. It'll be here before we know it.
Right, exactly. They are planning on having one of the first games. I thought I saw it was basketball, and that actually played this year. So some of the courts are actually getting finished. I believe some of the larger stadiums are very, very close to being done, and they'll just be going through finishing steps at that point. And obviously they'll have some small games and different things like that just to test the ground and to test the technology they've put in there and make sure everything's working well.
How would you...
Of course, the next step will be to actually get those tickets on sale and see how interested the public really is.
Minute to go here with you, Nikki. The time always flies by, but how would you like to have to be the act that follows the opening ceremonies of the Beijing Olympics?
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we've got a huge thing to live up to, and I'm interested to see what they're going to do. I mean, the English are not known for their big flamboyance, but they're known for their, quirky sense of humor.
Right.
So I don't know which way they're going to go here.
I would go with...
a little clueless. I'm going to have to dig into that story a little bit further, I think.
I'd go with 90 minutes to John Cleese and call it a day.
There you go. I love it.
Take care, Nikki.
You too, Rich. Thanks so much.
You betcha. Nikki Hale, our world correspondent, on the phone with us this morning because it's just too crummy to get to the studio. And indeed, here in the Capital District, in our state's capital, yeah, it's snowing. It's a little nasty out there. All right, going to take a break. Be back with more Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick. And Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick on this Friday. Time to chat with Ron Van Timmeren from Celebration Cinemas. This is the big weekend of the year in the movie industry. The Oscars are Sunday night. We'll talk about that momentarily. First, though, Ron, what's new? What's the breaking news as far as the releases this weekend?
Yeah, not much, Rich. The best of the bunch, tracking number one this weekend, will be Hall Pass from the Farley brothers, starring Owen Wilson, Jason Sudeikis from Saturday Night Live, also Jenna Fisher and Christina Applegate. They playing the wives of the aforementioned gentlemen who have a Hall Pass. You know what that means, right? They get to do whatever they want outside of marriage. There's
right.
No questions asked, no strings attached, no worries, right? What could go wrong with that?
Nothing at all. The trailer looked okay for it.
Yeah, and I'm hearing it's very funny, and of course the Farley brothers, well known for There's Something About Mary and the gross-out comedy standard that movie set. Apparently they've outdone themselves this time, so be warned, this is definitely an R-rated movie and a couple of gross-out scenes in there, but probably will be number one at the box office this weekend.
Well, there you have it. Anything else of note?
Drive Angry 3D with Nicolas Cage doing his best shoot 'em up, blow 'em up kind of thing. A couple of theaters around the state getting the Grace Card, a faith-based movie starring Louis Gossett Jr., catching up with the best foreign film nominee, Beautiful, and best animated movie, The Illusionist, kind of filling in the blanks this weekend. And of course, Justin Bieber, his new movie now has a new director's cut in theaters that contains scenes of more of his friends and hometown life, new songs, performances, and special footage. So getting all the fans back in for the Bieber movie.
I'm pretty excited about that myself. I'm not going to lie to you at all. Hey, I heard some good news over the week, or a couple of days ago, watching Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel on HBO there, and they interviewed Mike Tyson, and he's going to star in The Hangover Part 2.
Yes. How could you have a Hangover 2 without Mike Tyson after all?
Well, you would. Now, I saw The Hangover. Great, it's a great movie. It's a cult favorite already.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. But how can you have Hangover 2? Wouldn't you have learned from the first one?
Do guys learn
there
not
you
to
go
to Vegas and try to have too much fun? I don't think that's a lesson guys ever learn. And witness Hall Pass. Here comes another Hangover wannabe. The fun never stops.
I'll tell you what. Let's talk Oscar. It's coming up Sunday night. And everybody says it's going to be the King's Speech. I think if it's going to win all the awards in all the categories, from what I hear.
12 wins. Wow, Rich, you're a betting man, aren't you? Well, the only real challenger for an upset in the Best Picture category would be The Social Network, and I'm starting to wonder if my pick for the King's Speech is the right one. Of course, Colin Firth and Natalie Portman lead pipe cinches to win a couple of the categories, though. They might just split up the Best Director with the Best Picture, which rarely happens. I think David Fincher's got a chance to win Best Director.
And I heard The Fighter might have. It's a dark horse for Best Picture.
Yeah, definitely down the list is The Fighter. If I had a vote, I probably would have voted for Inception. I mean, there are a lot of great choices this year. Several of them still in theaters, which is great. I think Christian Bale's the Best Supporting Actor for The Fighter. I think Melissa Leo's got a real good chance to win Best Supporting Actress for The Fighter, although that Haley Steinfeld, that little girl from True Grit, a lot of people think she's going to win for her very first movie role.
Are the hosts this year a surprise? You've got the actress whose name I'm having a block with right now, who's the youngest.
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, Anne Hathaway. She's only 28 years old, so she'll be the youngest host in Oscar history. And the guy, I'm not gonna lie, I've never heard of this guy.
James Franco.
Never.
He's been around. You'll recognize him, and he's nominated.
No, I've seen him on TV. I don't recognize him at all.
Right, for 127 hours.
Uh-huh.
But I loved Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin last year because those guys were funny. I want a funny Oscar host. I hope these kids have got some good writers because they're talented actors. I think they can pull it off. But I want some yucks in my Oscar telecast.
Well, didn't it used to be it was Bob Hope every year?
Well, they've always gone with comedians. I mean, I think the class act of my generation is probably Billy Crystal, and he did such a great job. And,
right.
We need good comedians, I think, to make this more fun because let's face it, award shows can be really boring, especially the Oscars.
Now, does it come out at 8:00?
Yeah, 8 o'clock and all that red carpet stuff. It stays on the air until after midnight. It's a long show. They got a lot of stuff to give away.
That's the kind of the thing that drives you nuts because it seems like it's after 11 o'clock when they give the good stuff away.
Exactly. So you got to have a cup of coffee or a 5-hour energy or something. Keep the remote handy. Flip back and forth to other shows in between the stuff you really want to see.
How big a night is it for you personally?
You know what? The theater is dead on Sunday night, of course, on Oscar night or Super Bowl night. And yet I do believe with the King's Speech, as good as it's been, and almost $100 million for that, which was a small picture to begin with, it still could add another $10 or $20 million if it wins. Social Network, of course, still is on the video shelf already. So for the theater, for the movies that are still in the theaters, it could mean a nice payday. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, everybody I've talked to, I haven't seen it yet. I will, but everybody who's seen it has told me The King's Speech is not a good movie, but a great movie.
Absolutely. Check it out at the theater near you.
All right. We'll see you at the movies, Ron.
See you at the movies.
All right. Ron Van Timmeren from Celebration Cinemas. We're going to continue with our Oscar theme momentarily as we continue. Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick Shields in the morning. And Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick here on this Friday. Honored right now to be joined by the outstanding photojournalist Linda Solomon. We will continue our Oscar theme here on this Friday before the Oscars. Linda will be on the red carpet come Sunday evening in Hollywood. And Linda, I got to ask you, I've been thinking about this movie, kind of a mediocre movie from the mid-1960s called The Oscars, starring Stephen Boyd. And it was on, I think it's Turner Classic Movies, something of that nature. And what the movie opened with actual footage taken from the Academy Awards of what must have been, say, 1965 or 1966. It was held at the Long Beach Convention Center, and it showed the stars walking into the arena. And it seemed very orderly, and I'm thinking it can't be anything like that now.
Well, actually, that's funny. It's orderly in the sense that the journalists that are invited have an assigned spot, and you cannot move from that spot. So I have to be there at 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, and once I arrive, that's where I have to stand until the celebrities begin to arrive, which would be probably about 4 o'clock Los Angeles time. So in the sense that it's a little more orderly from previous years. When I first started photographing the Oscars, you didn't have an assigned spot. So you had to be there about 8 o'clock in the morning,
wow,
and you had to hold that spot. Otherwise, somebody would take it. So yes, I think years ago it was a little chaotic. And I've been photographing the Oscars for 29 years. So it has changed a little bit in the organization of it, and but and now it's at the Kodak Theater, which is a very different type of venue from the Dorothy Chandler or the Shrine, where it was held for many years. And it's actually a little more difficult for the media, as far as logistics, because once we're through with the red carpet area, then you have to go up to the hotel rooms where we photograph the celebrities with their Oscars once they are presented an Oscar. And it's a long haul when you're carrying a lot of camera equipment.
How much equipment will you be carrying, and how much does it weigh?
Well, it's interesting. Years ago when I was shooting film, it was a lot heavier. But now with digital, I'm going to have 2 digital cameras with me and 2 lenses, so it's a little bit easier. But I'll bring probably my iPad so that I can download images too. So, maybe it's not quite as heavy as my film cameras, but you're still, carrying a lot of stuff.
Well, the reason I ask is I cover a lot of sporting events, and I see these photographers who are carrying lenses that are 2.5 feet long.
Oh,
and
maybe, not me.
Yeah.
No, not for this, because you're actually quite close. So for this type of event, you don't need those kinds of telephoto lenses, because you're right there on the red carpet, and actually I'm standing right in front of Tom Hanks, or I was looking at the list. I'll tell your listeners some of the presenters this year, because they've sent me a list, and Scarlett Johansson is going to be a presenter this year, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin. So when the celebrities begin to arrive, the presenters and, of course, the nominees, they're right in front of me. So I don't need the long lenses like the sports photographers. Thank goodness.
How big's your space?
Pardon me?
Your space. So you're assigned a space. How big is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was hard for me to hear you. I'm maybe being in Los Angeles, our connection. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. The space, though, that they assign you, how big is that? Are you just shoulder to shoulder with other reporters for that 2.5?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The space is actually not even large enough for me. No, you have no space. I mean, you are shoulder to shoulder, as you mentioned, and what can I say? I mean, it is tight. And then once the red carpet arrival ceremony has completed, then you're in a press room, and it's actually even tighter, because you have an assigned spot once again. And there are only 110 photographers from all over the world that are invited, and that is still photographers. There are videographers, of course. But we have assigned spaces in the press room, and again, you cannot move. I mean,
Linda, do you have to? Is it a difficult night for you in terms of wardrobe? Do you have to wear something special?
That's fun, because they do require black tie attire, but I make it a little comfortable. I think for you guys, you do have to wear a tux, but for women, you can kind of look a little dressier without, being quite so uncomfortable in what we're wearing. But it's going to be very cold in Los Angeles on Sunday. And years ago, the Oscars were always held on the last Sunday in March, and now they keep moving it up. So in February, it tends to be the rainy season out here, so it's very cold here. Not like Michigan, of course. But then I just read an article that they want to move the Oscars even further up in February, kind of very close to the Grammys. And I think because there are so many different awards ceremonies for ratings, they want to have the Oscars, maybe the second or third week in February. So that's something I just found out. So that may change, the date as of next year.
Linda, just a few seconds to go. Is it fun?
Is it fun?
Yeah.
It's a blast. I have never lost my enthusiasm for it. And in fact, you want to know how fun it is? I met the women that have been in the stands for 42 years. These are two sisters who have camped out for 42 consecutive years. They're now in their 80s.
Wow.
And every year they have a place in the stands. Now, after all of these years, they're now given a spot. But for years, they had to.
That's great. Linda, great talking to you. Thanks so much. Linda Solomon, great photographer. Well, one of the all-time great photographers. And she says it's a blast. Well, I imagine it would be. Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick on this Oscar Weekend Friday.